Let's dive right in. Today, we're unpacking two absolute titans in the world of modern data streaming, RabbitMQ and Kafka. Now, if you're building modern software, you know your services are eventually going to need to talk to each other. But here's a catch. Picking the wrong tool for that job, it can lead to massive headaches and some serious rework down the line. At first glance, they might seem totally interchangeable, but as we're going to see in this explainer, they actually solve fundamentally different problems. So, to really understand why these tools even exist, we have to look at the pain they're trying to solve. Picture this scenario. Your shiny new order service makes a direct HTTP request to your inventory service. It waits for a response, and hey, usually everything is totally fine. But what happens when that downstream inventory service gets sluggish? Or maybe it gets absolutely hammered with traffic during a massive flash sale. Or, worst case scenario, it just completely crashes. Suddenly, your order service is stuck waiting. It's timing out left and right, and worst of all, it's literally dropping user requests on the floor because it has nowhere to put them. It's a complete architectural nightmare.
And that exact nightmare illustrates the need for our shared baseline here, the message queue. Both Kafka and RabbitMQ act as this absolutely crucial buffer placed right between your services. Think of it like a giant shock absorber. They safely hold onto your messages until your downstream systems are actually ready to process them. So if that inventory service is running slow, the messages just safely accumulate. When a massive traffic spike hits, the queue just absorbs all that shock, letting your downstream services work at whatever pace they can comfortably handle. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with the decoupling dilemma, then explore message brokers versus event logs, dive into a heavy-hitting performance and ordering showdown, unpack those tricky delivery guarantees, and finally, look at some real-world applications.
Section 1. The decoupling dilemma, and why direct calls fail.
To safely scale up, decoupling is just vital. Look at step 1 of this asynchronous flow. Instead of calling the inventory service directly, the order service just drops a message right into the queue. Step 2, the order service returns immediately. It doesn't wait around tapping its foot, it just fires and forgets. Then, in step 3, the inventory service picks up that message whenever it's good and ready and actually has the capacity. Both RabbitMQ and Kafka give you this really beautiful decoupling of producers and consumers. But how they actually achieve this under the hood, well, that is entirely different.
Section 2. Message brokers versus event logs, the philosophical differences.
This is where we see a fundamental paradigm shift in how they handle messages. RabbitMQ operates as what we call a smart broker with simple consumers. The broker is doing all the heavy lifting. It handles the routing, it tracks deliveries, it manages all the retries. And when a consumer acknowledges that it successfully processed a message, RabbitMQ just deletes it. Poof, it's gone. Kafka, on the other hand, flips that completely upside down. It is a simple broker with smart consumers. It acts as a distributed append-only log. When a message comes in, Kafka just tacks it onto the end of a topic, and it stays there. Consumers pull from this log, and they are the ones responsible for tracking their own position, which is known as an offset. If a consumer crashes, no big deal. It just looks up its last offset and picks up exactly right where it left off.
You know, there's a saying floating around that perfectly captures this distinction. RabbitMQ is a message broker. Messages just flow through it. Kafka is a log. Messages live in it. Because Kafka's messages actually stick around, multiple entirely different systems can read that exact same stream independently. Your analytics team can be crunching the exact same events as your real-time notification system, all from the same Kafka log, even going back and reading historically from day one. RabbitMQ just isn't built for that. It's tailor-made for task-oriented workloads where a unit of work goes in, gets done, and disappears.
Moving on to Section 3, the performance and ordering showdown, the metrics. All right, let's get into the hard numbers, because these architectural differences heavily impact performance, specifically around throughput, latency, and ordering guarantees. Let's look at ordering first. RabbitMQ gives you strict global ordering, meaning messages come out in the exact order they went in. But, and this is a big but, that's only if you use a single consumer. Kafka splits topics into partitions. Order is guaranteed within a specific partition, which brilliantly allows you to parallelize your processing safely across multiple consumers. Next up, throughput. RabbitMQ can handle a very respectable 4,000 to 10,000 messages per second, but Kafka handles over 1 million messages per second. However, look at the latency row. RabbitMQ absolutely shines here, delivering messages in just 1 to 5 milliseconds. Kafka is a bit slower at baseline, sitting around 5 to 50 milliseconds. So what you're essentially doing is trading the strict global ordering and ultra-low latency of RabbitMQ for the partition-based ordering and massive throughput of Kafka.
I really want to pause on this number for a second. Over 1 million messages every single second. Kafka pushes roughly 100 times more throughput than RabbitMQ. Why? Because the broker is doing so much less work per message. Under heavy load, the sheer simplicity of merely appending data to a sequential log pays off in a massive way, keeping things running smoothly even as your data volume absolutely explodes.
But hey, we cannot ignore this metric either, 1 to 5 milliseconds. RabbitMQ achieves this lightning-fast, ultra-low latency because the broker proactively pushes messages directly to consumers automatically. The trade-off, of course, is that the broker is doing a ton of heavy lifting, tracking states, managing acknowledgements, figuring out routing. All that per message overhead really adds up, which is exactly why its overall throughput hits a ceiling much earlier than Kafka's does.
Section 4. Understanding delivery guarantees and what happens when things fail.
So when you're dealing with failures, and let's be real, you will deal with failures, you generally have 3 options for delivery guarantees. At most once is incredibly fast because the broker fires off a message and doesn't even bother to retry. But if a consumer fails, that data is just gone forever. Then we have at least once. This is the industry standard, and honestly, it's what most applications actually need. The broker retries until it gets an acknowledgement. Both RabbitMQ and Kafka support this. It means 0 data loss, though your consumers might occasionally have to process a duplicate message. Finally, Kafka offers exactly once. This gets pitched a lot as the absolute holy grail of message queuing. But a quick word of caution here, it is highly restricted. It really only works when both your input and your output are Kafka topics sitting within the exact same Kafka cluster, running under Kafka transactions. The second you write to an external database or hit an outside API, boom, you are right back to at least once.
And speaking of things getting complicated, let's briefly talk about operational complexity. RabbitMQ is super straightforward. It's a single binary, it comes with a built-in management UI, it is highly approachable, especially for smaller teams. Kafka, on the other hand? Well, historically it required Zookeeper, now it relies on Raft, and it is significantly more complex to run. You've got to manage partition rebalancing, broker failures, consumer group coordination, the whole shebang. Because of this, if you choose Kafka, most teams end up leaning heavily toward managed services like Confluent Cloud or Amazon MSK just to outsource that infrastructure headache.
Section 5. Real-world applications. Let's see who is actually using what.
Looking at real-world deployments really makes this whole thing crystal clear. For your classic task queue patterns, Instagram uses RabbitMQ for their background workers that resize photo uploads. Reddit uses it to calculate user karma scores. The work goes in, it gets done, and it disappears. Simple. Meanwhile, Kafka is out there powering massive, durable event streams. Netflix pushes literal petabytes of data through it for billing and recommendations. Uber relies on it to calculate real-time pricing across millions of concurrent rides. And LinkedIn, the folks who've actually invented Kafka, use it to power their central activity feeds. These companies need every single event stored safely, available for replay, and consumed by dozens of completely different internal services at the same time. So, to wrap this explainer up, I want to leave you with one final, kind of provocative thought. Why choose just one? Because they actually solve fundamentally different problems. A lot of modern engineering teams use Kafka as their central, highly durable event backbone, and then they use RabbitMQ for the specific low-latency background tasks that get triggered by those central events. Understanding the unique strengths of both tools, that is the real secret to building truly resilient, scalable systems. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep exploring these incredible architectures.